Well, Lowtown is my first book. It's the first part of a trilogy dealing with this sort of unpleasant criminal overlord slash drug dealer named the Warden, or I think it's Guardião is what he's named. My understanding, at least in Portuguese. And you know, it's sort of my attempt to marry the setting of a sort of classic fantasy novel with some of the archetypes and the narratives of a sort of traditional noir story. So hopefully I've done that. I would beg your viewers to buy it and discover if I've done a good job with it. And if I haven't done a good job with it, just remember that I don't provide refunds. Well, the Warden, or the Guardian, I guess in Portuguese, he's a bad guy, I guess, or close to it at least. You know, one thing I get really tired of in a lot of genre fiction is these sort of anti-heroes who are really just heroes, you know, but they drink a little whiskey or they curse or something like that, you know, but ultimately you know they're going to do the right thing and they're good people and you're on their side. You know, coming, as I said, from the sort of noir tradition, I really want the reader to be a little bit uncomfortable with the character, a little bit uncomfortable with the hero. He's not a traditionally good person by any stretch of the imagination. I think he has sort of certain underlying moral qualities, but mostly he's a rather bitter, violent, broken man who drinks too much and does too many drugs, who gets embroiled in this situation where he has to do some sort of good things almost against his own will. So hopefully that's something that maybe people haven't seen that much of in a fantasy novel before. Just because there's magic in the world doesn't change the fact that people are sort of cruel, brutal, bitter creatures. And in particular, given that it's a sort of rough take on a medieval setting, you know, it deals with a lot of these sort of pre-modern concepts. You know, a lot of the sort of notions of modern sort of liberal notions that we all have come to accept, you know, didn't exist back then. So, you know, people's notions of race and of sex and things like this, they're very different. You know, it's a sort of an uglier kind of a world, and in that sense, I do think it is a reflection of our own, even though there are aspects of it obviously that don't exist in the real world. The book itself definitely has a sort of negative outlook, although I like to hope there's a little bit of humor that leavens that. As far as I go, I guess I am kind of a pessimist. Yeah, I tend to take a sort of dim view of humanity writ large and of our behavior. You know, I do think probably we're you know, a few. You know, if the social order breaks down a little bit, I think we're all a few steps from beasts, more or less. You know, happily in much of the world, or some of the world at least, you know, the standards of living are high enough that we don't need to kill our neighbor and take their food. But I basically think that if the standards of living dropped enough, most of us would kill our neighbors and take their food if we really had to. So that's sort of where I'm coming from about the state of the world. Hopefully that won't happen, though, and we'll all get enough to eat. In terms of where my direct influences come from for the book, they're probably more things towards the realm of like Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett and these sort of classic hard-boiled detective guys. I have a real love for that subgenre of literature and those two guys in particular, and I wear my influences pretty clearly on my sleeve, I guess. I've been in Brasília for about 4 days now, and it's been really a ton of fun. I've always wanted to get down to this part of the world, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to do so. Brasília is an interesting city. The architecture and the planned aspect of it are really fascinating, and the sort of ecology of the area with the sort of all the red dirt and the little scrub grass, I find it quite appealing, actually. And of course the people at the Bienal have been really so kind. It's been a surreal experience, you know, with the interviews and the speeches and signing books and so on. I'm a huge Tropicalia fan, actually. I'm a big fan of Brazilian music, as I think probably anybody who's been introduced to it would be. That's part of the reason I'm really happy to be here. Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil and Gil Costa and Tom Zay, they're just giants, huge fans. So I'm really excited to be here. And when my brothers found that I was going, they were really jealous because they're big fans as well. And they insist that I buy them a lot of vinyl records of some of these classic musicians. I keep telling them I can't carry 40 Caetano Veloso records while I'm traveling around Brazil. Hola, obrigado, oi. That's about as far as it goes at this point. I'm really bad at languages.